Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Good, Jeff. That was Ed. I'm Tim.
Hi, Ed. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Jeff.
I can't see your faces.
I know.
You're lucky you.
Yes.
Well, I'll
I
speak
know,
for
I'm blessed.
myself.
So you live in Florida?
I am actually in South Carolina.
Okay. Well, listen, Jeff, thanks for being on with us. Your book is out called Dancing with the Devil, an honest look into the occult from former followers. What these stories are, fascinating. Tell our listeners a little bit about your background, if you would.
Well, when I was a young man in my teens, this is back in the 70s. I'm going to date myself a little bit here, guys. Remember disco? That was my era.
Yeah, ours too.
We remember it well.
Yeah.
Night
to
fever,
forget our way.
night fever.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I got myself involved in Satanism as a teenager, and guys, it messed me up so much that I tried to commit suicide a couple of times. I mean, it just really took me almost to the grave. And
Wait a minute,
I
Jeff. Hey, Jeff, hold on just a second here. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
I'm envisioning. I mean, you said you got yourself into Satanism.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this isn't a club meeting at school, where they have,
Yeah.
they have
Chess club.
Chess club.
Satanists will meet. Yeah.
at 10:30 I mean, how do you quote get yourself into Satanism?
Well, I met someone actually in a small town in Indiana in 1978. He actually worked with me. He was a manager at a store I worked at the time, and I had a blizzard. There was a blizzard in Indiana, and I couldn't get home one night after work, and I went over to his apartment, and I walked into his apartment, guys, and he had the ceramic skull over his fireplace. I mean, he just had, that feel, that vibe, which to me, because I had some experiences with the Ouija board, and, I kind of had an awareness that there was another side. And when I walked into his apartment, I mean, I could honestly feel a tangible presence of something else. Something was there. And when I walked in, I kind of looked at him, and he looked at me, and we sat down and got to know each other a little bit better. And, I just said, what is this? I mean, you don't have regular apartment decor. You have some sort of paraphernalia here. What are you into? And he told me he was involved in Satanism, and it piqued my interest. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he gave me a primer on what the occult philosophy, Satanism philosophy was, and asked me if I was interested, and I said, absolutely. My background was, I came from a dysfunctional family, which is kind of a popular term for, you just don't get enough love, and we were moving every 2-3 years, so I really didn't have family structure or strong relationships, so I was looking for something. And when he offered me the opportunity to get involved in Satanism, I took him up on his offer.
Jeff, before we get too much further into your story, can you, for our listeners and those who are watching, can you help them understand the difference between, because your book is subtitled An Honest Look into the Occult from Former Followers. I've talked to people who use the word cult and occult interchangeably, but there's a difference in that. Explain just in general terms what you mean by the occult and how that would differ from the word cult.
Well, the world of the occult is basically the pursuit of hidden knowledge, hidden power, so that you can manipulate the spiritual realm so that you can be your own God. A cult, Jehovah's Witness, Mormonism, that type of thing, is typically they will recognize Jesus Christ, but not as truly the Son of God. But they will recognize him as a representative of God. But there are others.
So a cult is going to be more of a formal religious institution. The occult is different than that.
Yes, and in the occult, typically, it goes after more of the dark forces. There are people out there, Wiccans, that type of thing, that like to view themselves kind of as nice people, but when it boils down to it, they can turn on you in a second. So that's kind of a general, but I give a much stronger definition, the actual origin of the occult in my book.
Where do you get a copy of your book? What's the title of it again?
Dancing with the Devil, an honest look into the occult by former followers. It's available Barnes & Noble, online. You can go to my website, refugeministries.cc. It's available in any bookstore. All
right. What happened to you? You got involved. You went over to this guy's house. He's involved in Satanism. You're from so you sort of got curious and you got involved in it, sort of like something to sink your life into, I guess. And
well, I mean, society reinforced my interest in the occult because this was back in the day when Uri Geller, remember Uri Geller was bending spoons, and Gene Dixon was very popular, making predictions every year.
Right.
Who's going to be the next pope, for example? That type of thing. And when you're a dysfunctional, disconnected little kid, looking for a way out of family and society, I had some experiences, like I said, with the Ouija board when I was a little boy. So I kind of grew up with the understanding that there was more, and I was just looking for the way out.
How deep did you get in?
The occult or Satanism?
Yeah.
Well, that night he asked me if I was interested in becoming a Satanist, and I said sure. So he put the pentagram on the floor, just kind of made a pentagram on the floor, and we went into the middle of the pentagram, and he prayed over me, and I accepted my role as a Satanist, and I made Satan my Lord and Master. And guys, I mean, it was during that ceremony that, I literally felt demons come inside of me and take over and started to live inside of me.
How long did that last?
Well, I was a Satanist for a little over 4 years. So the whole point of my occult involvement and being a Satanist was to be, if you will, a living sacrifice, a body that the demons could live in so that I could exchange my heart, my soul for their power.
How many people knew about this?
Really, we pretty much tried to keep it, on the lowdown because we didn't want anybody to know what we were involved in.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be something you put on when you're applying for a job, on an application, religious belief, Satanism.
Yeah, but here's what's interesting was that the guy who initiated me, he became my teacher, for my 4-year stint. And his parents were on-fire Christians. I mean, they were just full of the love of God. And after I graduated from high school, he and I got an apartment together and moved back to his hometown, which was the biggest mistake in my life because I just walked into a beehive of active Christians. And the last thing I wanted to be was a Christian. I mean, I thought I had just hooked up to, my power source and I was on go. And wherever I went in this town, it was Newcastle, Indiana, the Christians were there waiting for me, it seemed like. And they harassed me with the love of Jesus to the point that they drove us out of town. I couldn't go to get a cheeseburger at lunch because a Christian would stick their head in my car and tell me about how Jesus loved me. So we left town, which was kind of a red flag to me, even, as young as I was and as deceived as I was, that I was leaving because of the Christians. So we kind of went from being nice Satanists, kind of modern Satanists, philosophical Satanists, to becoming traditional Satanists, which meant we started calling on demons in our rituals to actually do things on our behalf. And we started to go after the Christians because they had come after us. Up to this point, guys, I was a nice guy. I didn't want any trouble, and I was just self-centered and looking to be my own God. But when the Christians came after me, it angered me, and I became aggressive. So we began to build a group of Satanists, started, if you will, evangelizing, because when we moved over to a college campus. And we knew that the Satanic Bible was readily available on college campuses. As a matter of fact, at that time, the Satanic Bible was, like in the top-selling books on college campuses. So we started throwing parties and offering our religion, if you will, to whoever was interested in it. And guys, it was easy to start a group. It was much easier than I thought.
Well,
here's the thing.
Jeff, let me stop and just ask you a question about that, because in talking about your own background, you show up at this guy's apartment, and but when someone asks the question, would you like to become a Satanist? I'm guessing a pretty large percentage of young people would say absolutely not and would run, even if they're not explicitly Christian. Is there a particular type of young person that's susceptible, or do people, or does anybody from any particular background just simply that would, you see what I'm saying? It would seem like it would you'd have to have a particular type of young person who would say yes to becoming a Satanist.
Well, it's also kind of dependent on whatever's trending in society. Witchcraft is very hot right now, so kind of in the high schools, witchcraft is kind of more popular, if you will, than Satanism. You got to remember, this is back in the day when the Satanic Bible, we banked on the sales of and the knowledge of the Satanic Bible, and we had about 10 years, a little over 10 years, of Anton LaVey being a kind of a social icon.
Right.
So he was well established in a lot of people's minds. And when you have the Church of Satan and that popularity going on in society, these kids are already ready or prepared mentally. Today, I wouldn't do it the same way if I was to start a group, but that's how Wiccan covens and witchcraft is becoming popular, because society has been submerged in the occult. And if you ask somebody, hey, do you want to practice or do this witchcraft? I got a new witchcraft kit. Do you want to come over and play with it? That's basically what the Ouija board is. A lot of people would say yes. So it's not a particular type of person, if you will, because these kids that we were evangelizing were they were the sons of lawyers and teachers. They weren't the outskirts of society type people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, weren't all kids from broken homes, kind of things. What you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't the riffraffs or it wasn't the we've got to quit profiling who the occultist is, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote this book.
Well, Jeff Harshbarger is with us. Harshbargar is Jeff's last name. His book is called Dancing with the Devil. He's just been telling us about his story involving his life, 4 years of life in Satanism. The subtitle of the book is An Honest Look into the Occult from former followers. We got about 10 minutes left.